I actually think what we think of ourselves is the most important thing. And that's what we need to protect. So how do you build that faith in self or love of self? And it is by taking on things that are difficult. Like Glennon Doyle, we can do hard things, right? You darn bet we can do hard things, and we should do hard things and not wimp out on ourselves. But it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. It doesn't matter what your spouse thinks or your kids think. Of course, we are all part of that unit. But if you really want to take something on, if you really want to do something, those around you who love you are going to support you on that.
Welcome to the Midlife Reinvention Podcast. I'm your host, Kavita, and the founder of Power Purpose Play, a global community of women in midlife. I'm here to tell you that it's your time now to rediscover what has always been inside of you and bring that out into the world. If you're wondering what's next, but don't know quite what that is, or if you feel a twinge in your heart telling you that you have so much more to do and so much more to offer, you're in the right place. Ask yourself, if not now, when? Do you want to leave your job, start your own business, take control of your health, reignite the passion in your marriage, write that book, or at least that first chapter? Transitions like this can be daunting, but through listening to my story and interviews with incredible women every week, I hope to inspire you to take action. I rediscovered myself after the age of 50, and I know you can too. It's my time now to help you do just that. I'm so excited you're here. Let's dive in. Hi, my friend, and welcome to another episode of the Midlife Reinvention Podcast. I hope you're doing well and enjoying this first part of December. It really is so hard to believe that December is upon us, isn't it? Are you enjoying the holiday festivities yet? I know it can be overwhelming with all that we feel we have to do before the year wraps up, both from a work and a personal perspective. But I encourage you to take some time for yourself, to congratulate yourself for all that you have done this year, and to be grateful for all that you did for yourself and for those around you. I know that many times we feel like we have to have all our ducks in place, that all our plans have to be in line for the new year, but give yourself a break. It's okay if you haven't figured out everything right at this moment. Whatever is in your heart, whatever you're passionate about, think about it. Visualize it. Visualize where you'd like to be at the end of 2023. And the mere act of visualizing, or even thinking about it positively, will start the manifestation process. I'm here for you with a step-by-step process to help you manifest what is in your heart for yourself for 2023. Reach out to me and I can offer you a complimentary consultation, which I can promise you will provide a breakthrough for you in what may be holding you back. My clients have experienced it time and time again. I have provided my clients with transformational coaching that has enabled them to break through the blocks that are preventing them from moving forward and developing the confidence to take the next steps. As I wrap up the last few days looking after my mom after her stroke, I have been grateful for the little things. I don't know about you, but when you visit your childhood home, you might come across some little mementos that bring you back to your childhood. One such memento is a plaque that is on my wall in my mom's kitchen, and it reads this: "Count your age by friends, not years. Count your life by smiles, not tears." I'll just leave it at that. Enjoy this next podcast episode with Karen Simpson, who's sure to inspire you to take those next brave steps. As she so aptly says, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Enjoy, and I'll see you at the end with the key takeaways. Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Midlife Reinvention Podcast. I'm your host, Kavita Ahuja, and I am a certified women's midlife transition coach and the founder of Power Purpose Play, which is a global community of women in midlife. I reinvented myself after the age of 50, and I'm here to help you do the same. I'm also an author and a speaker, and my mission is to empower women like you to find your inner power and purpose and to say with confidence, it's my time now. As part of this mission, I interview incredible women for this podcast who share their stories of reinvention and who will give you their advice on how to overcome the obstacles in your way to reach your vision for yourself in your next stage of life. This week is no exception, as I'm thrilled to have on the show today Karen Simpson. Karen wants everyone to become confident, identifying and celebrating their awesome. Her career spans over 30 years as a certified HR leader, DEI expert, tech sales professional, and in 2019, she was awarded Canada's #1 recruiter. That's amazing. Most recently, Karen was president of Lean In Toronto, leading a team of 30 who were passionate about helping women become unapologetically ambitious. On a personal front, Karen is a proud mom to 4 independent adults, and in her late 50s, she became an endurance athlete recognized at Karen Get Her Done on social media, and she has climbed the highest mountains in 9 countries. She's run 5 marathons and has hit the podium for her first duathlon. She is also a cancer survivor and has completed the Ride to Conquer Cancer twice. As Karen says, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. And Karen will soon announce her next pivot, and I'm looking forward to hearing what that is all about, if you want to share that. So welcome to the show, Karen. I just am so incredibly amazed by everything that you've done. So I'm so thrilled to have you on.
Thank you for having me and the great success of your podcast. Over 70.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's hard to believe when you start something and it just goes on, and it's like, okay, here I am. So I just wanted to get right into your background. And when I first met you, your profile immediately really drew my attention, not only because of your great professional achievements, so as I just mentioned, being awarded as Canada's #1 recruiter and representing women in STEM, but also because of the statement in your profile, which says, I began climbing mountains at 50. So that really drew my attention. So please, we're all about a reinvention here. So please tell our audience, how did you decide to become a mountain climber and basically turn your life around after 50?
Well, I raised 4 kids, and I'm really working on my career through my 40s. So that kind of covers 24 hours out of the day right there.
Yeah.
I think I was sleeping 4 hours on a regular basis a night. So you can imagine the health spiral that can happen from that, and feeling you're doing the right thing, like maybe for everybody else, but maybe not for yourself so much.
Yes.
So yeah, my doctor gave me the awakening call at about 48. And so I forced myself into the gym. I knew in order to get committed to that, I needed to put a lot of money down with a trainer to make my butt show up. So I did that, but I'm also very goal oriented and always thinking. I'm a futurist with respect to my strengths. That's one of my top strengths. So I'm always planning and looking to the future. And when I started to suddenly think during one of these training sessions, probably when I was grumbling about turning 50 and what I wanted that to look like, envisioning different scenarios about how I might celebrate it. I always collected Wonder of the World books since I was a teenager. So I'm like, looked at a picture of Mount Kilimanjaro in that one of the books, and I'm like, I'm going to climb that, knowing nothing about it, by the way, nothing.
Wow.
And then I put it out, I put stuff out there. That's how I get motivated. I put it out there. I told my mom, my family, all very positive people in my life, and they're like, oh, you can't do that. Oh, you're going to die. And I'm like, I'm a person who told me I can't do something. Guess what?
You do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You do it twice over, probably, right? That's amazing.
We started, and I thought I'd honestly be a one-hit wonder. I trained. It got me into a much better health situation. I started to be outside more, which I love nature. I started to obviously re-energize things with my team at work, and it was just a different me who started to show up because I was taking care of physical and mental well-being. And I went and climbed this mountain, and everybody was like, oh, you need to put it on Facebook, you need to socialize it. And I decided last minute, like literally a week before we went, that I was going to fundraise for my father at Alzheimer's. And we went and raised quite a bit of money in a very short period of time. And now I had that added pressure of, oh, I need to make this really good. So I did actually go out there on social media, which was probably another fear, and told the story. And it was like pretty much 100% positive feedback. So I came down, people were wanting me to talk about it more. And I also immediately knew, like at the top of that mountain, that I needed to do more of these. And it was such a powerful journey and experience that I was going to be doing a lot more in my 50s. So I did it a couple of months before I turned 50. And then from 50 on, I just plowed right through a whole whack of goals. It's been the best decade of my life, honestly, but definitely the best decade of my life.
That's incredible. I mean, congratulations. I mean, other people may have received a call like that, the health scare that you received, and crawled under the covers, or just not faced life the way that you like just embraced it. And I love what you said about the visioning. You envisioned it. And that's such an important thing for all of us to understand, is that if you don't have a vision for something that you want to do, then it's so difficult to even take the first step. So that vision of Mount Kilimanjaro, I don't know if you know, I'm from Kenya. I was born in Kenya.
Yeah, I think we've talked.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to go back. There's so much to discover in Africa.
Yes. And also I love what you said about that a different me showed up. And I think that's really kind of what reinvention is all about, is that it doesn't mean that you have to be a completely different person, but it's like you really identify what's inside of you and bring that out, even if it's little bits at a time, right? So fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. That's incredible.
I mean, I think when we look at reinvention, it depends how people take the word, honestly.
Yeah.
It's evolution and a building on what we already have. That's awesome. Because
Absolutely.
when I look back at the first callings that I had, it didn't start with a strength, the doctor. So putting myself maybe not number one, but the things that got me out of where I was at that point were all of my strengths. Being an activator, a maximizing, and a futurist, and all of the things that I had been using maybe with other people. A lot of the community work that I do, my family, keeping them in order, were the things that I needed to direct now to myself, to get myself.
Yes, absolutely. And that's so important to understand what our strengths are and how can we apply them. And you're right, it's an evolution, and it's building upon what you already have. So that's wonderful. So Karen, you have also written, you're also an author apparently. So in addition to everything you've done, so you wrote a chapter in a book that's called Cart Diem. And in this chapter, there's one quote that I'll just read it. It says that if you really want to learn the things about yourself that aren't open or positive, commit to conquering something you don't like to do, perhaps something that scares you. And so I guess from that quote, I would ask you, like, how did you develop the courage to do these so difficult and challenging things that people will think about but don't do? So how did you actually develop that courage?
I look at our lives as it's just simply a series of decisions that we make. And we can all probably look back on our life and go, oh, there's some 3 to 5 like critical decisions that you made. And did you find power in those? Or do you wish you could maybe go back and retweak those decisions? For me, the most powerful decision I have ever made was to put my 2 boys into a better life situation when they were really young. So I had a very difficult divorce that I went through in my 30s, and I had some other women around me who were going through the same thing, and I saw that some were choosing to be victims, perhaps, and others were saying, I'm going to hang on to this house. I'm going to do everything that maybe that person leaving my life said that I couldn't do. So the can't again, right?
Yes, yes.
That house. And I started to focus like very seriously on my career and making sure I did the right thing for my kids. And that really empowered me because I doubled or tripled my income within a couple of years while I was doing sole parenting and sole providing for two babies.
Wow.
So that was definitely an empowering decision. And then at this point in my 50s, deciding to, 52, I pivoted my career from being in tech sales to going into one of the largest companies in Canada in a role I had never been in before, diversity inclusion. So they attracted me into the role, and then they let me create it as I saw fit, knowing that my influencing skills and my leadership skills would add to that. So sometimes we don't see it in ourselves so much, but the situation will have us, and we are responsible for that decision that we're making and making sure that we're going to be proud of ourselves on the other side of that decision.
Yes, that's so true. I never really thought of it like that. If you think about your life and the decisions, the pivotal decisions that you make. I have a client who calls them conscious choices. And what are the conscious choices we make in our lives, and how do those affect our future and affect things that happen after? And those choices take courage, and the courage you had to decide to get out of the situation prior to your divorce and then your career, and then again deciding to lead this adventurous life that you're living. That's great. That's great. So it just came from within. Is something that just came from within?
I think the power from each of the incidents. So I do remember one vividly. It's actually the most nervous I've ever been in my whole adult life, was advocating for my two boys who couldn't read till the age of grade 3, by the way. And they wanted to put them into like remedial. I knew them. My boys were smart. They just needed some extra support or a different approach to learning. And a whole school board showed up to this little school in the beaches, and I had to advocate for my kids. And I won. And those two boys, by the way, now are an investment banker and completing his master's in aerospace. So
whoa.
I hadn't had made that decision to advocate for them.
Yes.
I knew instinctively somehow that protecting their confidence, to not have them pulled away from their peers, or it's with whatever might keep them at a high point in how they think of themselves, was going to be the critical sauce that kept them in a place where they needed to plow forward with life. And I look back and I go, wow, it was powerful. But I knew it. I knew it in that moment, and I had to trust my intuition that, hey, I can present to board people, but you know what? Going in for your kids and out of all these people who were trying to intimidate me, I think, and that's the impression we might have, but still through the nervous tweaking of my voice, and I think it came loud and clear that I was right, and I was right. So the nerves didn't matter. Advocate.
Yeah.
Here's teachers and teaching professionals and psychologists who are in this room who are really doing their jobs for the betterment of people, but sometimes that gets lost in the process.
Yes.
And with two boys, it would have got lost in the process. So stepping into that and going, this was more important than anything else I might be doing.
Yes. And it shines when you're passionate about something. Then if you're really passionate about something, then the confidence just follows, right? So yeah, that's a great story. And by the way, I have two boys too, so a lot of commonalities here. So Karen, I was thinking about your adventures that you've done, and there was, I had read somewhere in one of your blogs that you said that summits require both mental and physical toughness, and I think that's equally true for any endeavor that we face in our lives. And however, what it usually or inevitably holds us back is a fear or doubt that we can't do it. So there's a fear of failure. There's a fear of criticism. You talked about earlier how some of the people in your family said, no, you can't do that, right? So there's a fear of criticism. And then there's also the fear of success. So what if I actually succeed? What happens then, right? So maybe you can, I know you talked a little bit about some of the fears you faced just now with advocating for your boys, but what are some of the fears that you did face? And how would you advise women who are looking to do something different in their lives, but are just held back by their fears?
So I'm at the point where for probably at least the last 10 years, I walk into my fears. So there's two things that really call to me. Am I afraid? Am I reacting to doubt? So what that idea that somebody's tossed out a picture I've seen, a story I've seen, what is it that's me? Oh, I would never say I can't to myself. That's my most hated word in earth. I have my favorite blog post that I've written actually is on that. But I think you need to really look at why you would be stopping yourself from doing something. So at this point, I want to do and see what my body and myself is capable of while I still have my faculties and my body's coming along for the ride with me. So wouldn't it be a shame if later when I don't have those things, oh geez, I wish I'd climbed a mountain. Oh gee, I wish I had gotten on a bike after 40 years. Oh gee, I wish I had taken that career path that I really wanted to do all along, but maybe for family or structure or financial reasons, I just thought, oh, I better be secure. And step into it. Like, what is the worst that's going to happen? Failure does not scare me at all. Success, well, I just assume success. Maybe we need to tweak how our mindset is around that to not even think about us not being successful, but I'm a huge vision board person. Putting pictures, I have done this with mountains or bicycles or whatever, and I cut out a picture of myself and I put myself on that bicycle going wherever I'm going to go. So whatever works for you, I think vision boarding works for quite a few people, sometimes keeping a diary, writing things down. I have all kinds of quotes around my office in here. If we change the view here, or I'm looking at every day of sending me the message. Taped on my computer right now, I have Kalapatur Nepal. So I don't know when that'll happen because I have to shake off the pandemic pain, bad habits, but I'll get there. Like that, I'm going to be looking at that every day because I'm turning 60 in a couple months, and I walk into that. Like, how do I even do better than I had in my 50s, which was my best decade ever? But determined that I'm going to do it. So starting my own business, going and doing things that hopefully I can pull off physically in my 60s and making a difference in people's lives in a very big way are things that I plan to do for the next decade.
I love your positivity. That's amazing. I love that. And it's so many things you just said, walk into your fears. And that's so true. I mean, a lot of us just stop, we hesitate because we don't know what's going to happen next. And then the thing is what you said about, you don't want to regret. You said you wish you don't want to regret at the end of your life, looking back and going, well, God, what if I had done that? And I often talk about something called the inner mentor, which is you 20 or 30 years from now. So what do you want her to look like? And she should be your mentor. You can have external mentors, but the internal mentor is really you. And what is it that you see as yourself in the next 20, 30 years? So, and I also like that statement is, what is the worst thing that can happen? What about saying, what is the best thing that can happen, right? Let's turn that around and be positive. So those are some great points. And I'm so passionate about having women realize, and people just step into their fears, because what's the worst thing that can happen, right?
And because I put myself out there, like with my family, of course, on Facebook, then ultimately with the blog and on social media, part of that is it helps motivate me because it's quite inspiring to me to have the comments come back. But I know how many people I've inspired that have come forward. My family, like my adventure buddy, he said he wouldn't have done any of this if I hadn't have stepped into these things. He just thought, oh, she's going to be talking about it for the rest of her life, so I better get on this bandwagon. And he it turns out that he loves doing this stuff as well. So who would think a relationship 20 years and you both end up climbing all these mountains? And we recently did 500 kilometers around Prince Edward Island in 21 days. Like,
yes,
we just a couple of weeks ago, right? And he loved it. He might have
nice.
loved it more than I did on that adventure. So yeah, he's all in, and the kids are wanting to do something with us too. So it's very powerful message you're sending to your
Yeah.
whole community.
Yeah. And even if you influence or inspire one person, I think that's what it's all about. It's about, I think you said pay it forward. And it's about whenever you go through something and you experience something and you learn from it, why not share that? Right. So, and you're doing that with what you're doing. And hopefully I'm doing that with what I'm doing. So I think if we all do that, it's just going to make things better. So that's great. And another thing that we have in common and is I'm learning more and more about that is about that little voice inside of us. And I often speak about that. And that's one of the reasons I changed my life. And I listened to that little voice that was saying, is this it? Right. And another quote that you had in your book, you say that I learned to listen to my internal voice and trust my instincts so I can confidently address the things that feel out of whack with my principles and ethics, professionally or personally. So tell us a little bit about this little voice and what it means to you and how we should listen to it.
I think we all need to train that little voice, like seriously putting out a training regimen. Every time we have doubt or we feel we should back away from something, we should start exercising this, because I mean, you subconsciously have a feeling. We all get that. I call that kazoo, and a lot of people might not be all the kazoo from the Flintstones sitting on Fred's shoulder, going talking to him in his ear. I have a kazoo with me all the time, and I really do think that we need to train it. But in my career, there have been several times where I walked away from an opportunity. I walked away from a company. In one case in particular, I did not believe in what they were asking me to do. It didn't feel right to me. And I had several $100,000 of already booked business that was going to be coming to my family, that I just decided that I went and found another job very quickly, and I left. And so in that moment, oh my gosh, my family or what? But if I'm not doing the right thing for me and my ethics, then it's not going to be a good picture on the other side. I'm dinging my confidence. So I trusted my instinct. I made that decision. And then the company that I went to, within 4 years, I quadrupled my income.
Amazing.
So it's karma.
Yes.
It's like you do the right thing. I strongly believe it's going to come back to you. And those who aren't doing the right thing, I believe it comes back to them. That's never the intent. It's like, was the right thing for me to keep my confidence and to keep moving forward in a progressive and a productive manner.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also, we're role models for our families too. Whether we have kids or not, our siblings and our parents and everybody's looking at us, and they're perhaps internally judging us a little bit on those decisions that we're making, and making sure that we can stand up to those decisions.
Mm-hmm. Of course. Yeah. I mean, so much there. So the internal voice that you listen to, it has to align with your values. It has to align with the vision for yourself. And if it doesn't, then we're all obligated, I think, to listen to that, because if we don't, then we're fighting against things that, the norm, like it's there for a reason. And I believe that if you kind of listen to it and just kind of get silent, and I don't know if you do, what kind of practices you have, or if you meditate or whatever, but if you listen, just even stay silent and just ask yourself, what do I really want? The answers will come. And it may not manifest right away. It may not manifest, immediately. And that's what I think what happens. People say, well, I don't believe that because that didn't happen. But the things that come to you, and ironically, will fall in place eventually if you still have that conviction that you're your internal conviction that it's going to happen. So I don't know if that made any sense, but that's.
And I had what you're talking about this year, actually. I'm living it right now because I have spent the last 6 years with an amazing bank, doing an amazing job and being recognized for that. But this voice was talking to me. There's always this professional opportunity I wanted to create for myself. Then the voice got louder and louder and louder. And finally in January, it was like so loud, it was distracting me every day. And then in February, I woke up on Valentine's Day and I actually gave my notice. Like I just said, okay, like enough, enough. And I was in a situation privilege wise where the shares for this company were in a good spot so that I could afford to make the decision and then kind of maybe get my act together after. So I acted on that feeling because the voice inside got so loud and was almost upset with me, saying, like, why are you waiting? There's not going to be a perfect moment. And that's probably the message in it. There's never going to be a perfect moment.
Right, right.
And sometimes we just need to believe in ourselves enough that we just do it.
Absolutely. That's great. So tell me about that, because I know that you have always been a very fierce advocate for women. And I read your bio and you were president of Lean In Toronto or Lean In Canada. Is it Lean In Canada? Yes. In Toronto. Okay, sorry. And you've been a champion for women and underrepresented businesses and also for women in STEM. So tell me if this new venture that you're doing has anything to do with that, and where does this passion to advocate for women come from?
Well, thanks for the opportunity to go there. I thoroughly enjoyed, and I would highly recommend that anyone listening to this podcast who isn't actively involved with the community, wants to build their leadership skills, wants to have a big impact and grow a connected, passionate group of people around them, really should look to the community and giving back. It's always a component I have in my life. Regardless of how busy I have been, I've always mentored people. I've always been involved with associations, but you can have a win-win. So the HR Association, I was a mentor for them for many years. So even though during my busiest times in my career, and women and empowering women and helping them find their confidence. Well, I had been approached previously to take on this role, but I didn't want to be an event planner. And then when the pandemic came up, I'm like, stepped right into it. Wow, this is a powerful time for change. And in any organization, we have to reinvent ourselves as an organization and come together and support each other. So built a team of 30 volunteers, and we had some very powerful events and created opportunities with Professional Indigenous Association, with newcomer associations to do mentoring on an ongoing basis, and working with obviously the team at Lean In Canada and across Calgary and Vancouver and Ottawa as well. So that was on so many levels such a great opportunity, doing that with a full-time job and managing 3 renovations we were going through at the time. So there was a lot on my plate.
And climbing a few mountains.
Yeah, well,
not good. Okay. Sorry, go on.
So now, I mean, I haven't made an announcement yet, but I will be over the next month or so about what my next step is. I've gone back to school and I'm finishing a certification right now. I went for 5 weeks to Prince Edward Island and took on a huge challenge because this is my milestone year. And I finished the role with Lean in Toronto in the summer. So it's been a busy year, but I've had enough time opened up that I've been able to follow my curiosity, and that's led me to a different place than what I originally thought it would when I handed in my notice on Valentine's Day. So I think we do need to take that. It's for me, by the way, your question earlier was what tools I guess I use and how I think. It's almost always in nature. There with my dog Charlie, I'm in the woods, I'm on the country road, I'm watching sunrises, sunsets, like every day. Yes. I need that balance, and it happens for me up north. It also happens for me in the city. I just walking the streets. I live in the middle of the city when I'm in Toronto, and just walking. There's so many great trails that we can do.
So inspiring, right? Yeah, that's fantastic. So I love that you are, again, going back to that voice and that you're starting a new adventure and at 60 almost. So that's so inspiring and congratulations. And that kind of leads me kind of my next question is that as women in our 50s, 60s, we have done so much. We have got so much experience. We have so many talents. And often as women, I see this so often is that we don't give ourselves enough credit for all the great things that we've done, right? And I think that maybe stems from the fact that we've always looked after everyone else first, like whether it's kids or parents or spouses and then kind of we come last, right? I don't know if you agree with this or not, but so I always encourage women to really step into themselves and make themselves a priority and celebrate their success. And I keep on going back to some of the quotes you said. One of the quotes was that tears are earned moist medals of pride for self. And I love that because we should be proud of ourselves. And why? Like, why do you think women at this stage of life, stage that you and me are in, why should we be so proud of ourselves? Hi, my friend. Kavita here. Do you often feel blocked from moving forward? We all feel that way at times. These are referred to as energy blocks. I've created a short, actionable PDF guide to help you release your negative energy blocks. Click the link in the description to download it now for free. Now, let's get back to the episode.
I actually think what we think of ourselves is the most important thing, and that's what we need to protect. So how do you build that faith in self or love of self? And it is by taking on things that are difficult. Like Glennon Doyle, we can do hard things, right? You darn bet we can do hard things, and we should do hard things and not wimp out on ourselves. But it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. It doesn't matter what your spouse thinks or your kids think. Of course, we are all part of that unit. But if you really want to take something on, if you really want to do something, those around you who love you are going to support you on that. So, I mean, sometimes we get caught up in that, and protecting what we think of ourselves is really, the rest of it's none of our business. What we think of ourselves is all of our business. And we have to own that. So tears for fears is kind of a different way of me saying, like, walk into your fears, walk into your doubts. I'm not big on the term imposter syndrome at all, because I think sometimes what we do with women is we label things in a very critical way that makes us feel like we did something wrong and we have to go on a disease prevention program to fix it. And it's just normal human behaviors. And we don't need all those labels. But what we do need to realize is that what we think of ourselves is going to affect everything else.
100%. So what we think of ourselves is the main thing. And that's why I say it is our time. It is our time now, right? And I know I agree with that. We can do hard things. But then the definition of hard things is different for each person.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be in climbing a mountain, for example. It can be whatever takes you out of even a little bit outside of that zone of comfort and leads you into a little bit of a stage where it's like, I can grow if I do even a little thing. And it doesn't have to be a huge momentous thing. And I think that's what stops a lot of people is they think, oh, I have to do this huge, big thing. And then I'll be happy or then I'll achieve my goals. But really, I always encourage women to just look one step ahead. And one step is going to lead to the next and the next and the next. And then before you know it, you'll be on top of the mountain, right?
Right?
Or not, yeah.
That's so much mentoring. And through this journey, I actually became a motivational speaker for the running room.
Of course you did. Yeah.
I have seen people of all shapes and ages and sizes, like, go out and do a kilometer, and they're high-fiving other people. So high-fiving, tear. They're so happy. There's emotional brought out from their inner core because of what they because they didn't believe that they could do it before they started it. And that's all I'm trying to inspire in that is like, just go do that. But once you do it, beware, because having trouble figuring out how to celebrate 60, because in my mind, I want that feeling. I want the arms up in the air. I want the hooray. I want the celebration. And I want those spontaneous tears that took me 20 days of walking, by the way, walking 25 kilometers a day. It took me,
oh my God.
before those tears finally hit me in a quiet moment in nature. And Jeff looked at me and he's like, "You're having the moment." I'm like, "Finally." Like, because it gets harder and harder to create that in yourself. So that's just propelling you forward.
Yes. And I guess that's what you mean. Does that you mean by what you say is that live positive and pay it forward?
I mean, that works as well. The pay it forward for me, though, is to intentionally be bringing yourself to the community in a powerful way to help others. That, like, volunteering, mentoring, doing anything for yourself in that. But like right now, I'm doing volunteer work with refugees in the Peterborough area and helping them get set up in their new life here. And so it's all new to me, right? I've never done that before. But oh my gosh, they're so happy to see you when you show up. That it just brings a different part of you. And where am I going to find a free bed for somebody? Where am I going to? And I'm like, we'll go find this for you, because I've got more tools to help there to get you up than you're going to have when you're new to the country. I think we always need to be putting ourselves out in the community, and we need that community around us as well. It's a powerful thing.
That's so true. And since I met you, I want to do that more. And I'm actually looking into Lean In as well, because I think that would be something that we have, as we talked about earlier, we have so much to give, and we have so much so much knowledge and so much, even just humanity that we need to share with others. And regardless of background, age, sex, ethnicity, it's something that we have to. And being involved in DEI as well, we're all one and pay it forward. So that's an amazing message. And something you mentioned earlier, just about taking those steps. I think I mentioned to you, my mom just had a stroke, and she's always been very active and very mobile, and seeing her learning to have to walk again is really, you start from zero, but then you go up, and it's like that determination to just do, as you said, even if it's a kilometer. In her case, it's just walk across the room, right? But it's whatever it means to you is important and meaningful. So that's great. So, well, I mean, feel like we could talk for a long time. It's wonderful that you've been able to do some incredible things. And it doesn't matter what age, but especially after the age of 50. And now you're going into your next decade, and can't wait to see what you have to do in the next stage. But maybe if there's one last thing that you wanted to share with the audience as to some of your thoughts on moving forward.
I just want to go high five your fierce mom.
Sorry, say that again?
Give a high five to your fierce mom and
celebrate. Thank you.
Crossing whatever daily finish line that she has. I think that's awesome. And there's a lot in that, because I've heard you talk about your parents in the podcast, and they're moving to a couple of different countries, and so the courage. So I can already so there's no doubt that she's crossing that finish line.
Thank you.
I think it's actually your mom that probably can end this on the strongest note, and we'll finish that line, because she believes in herself, and she's had the courage to take on difficult things throughout her life and do the best for herself and for her family. And let's let your mom finish this podcast today.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so kind. I appreciate that. You brought tears to my eyes. Thank you so much, Karen. I really appreciate your time, and congratulations on everything you've done, and good luck. And can't wait to hear what's next for you. when you announce it. So maybe we'll have you back.
I'd love to come back. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks so much, Karen. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast with Karen Simpson, and it provided you with some food for thought on how to climb your own personal mountain. Here are her key takeaways. Number 1, reinvention is an evolution and building upon what we already have that's awesome. Number 2, the things that got me to move forward were all of my strengths. All the things that I was using with other people were the things I needed to direct to myself now. Number 3, I look at our lives as simply a series of decisions we can make. Are we going to be proud of ourselves at the other side of that decision? Number 4, I'm at the point where I walk into my fears and I ask myself 2 things. Am I afraid, or am I reacting to doubt? Number 5, I think you really need to look at why you would be stopping yourself from doing something. Step into it. What is the worst that could happen? Number 6, I think we all need to train that little voice of doubt. Every time we have doubt, we need to start exercising this. 7, if you do the right thing, I strongly believe it's going to come right back to you. What's the right thing for you to keep your confidence and move forward in a progressive and productive manner? 8, there's never going to be a perfect moment, and sometimes we need to just believe in ourselves so much that we just do it. 9, I actually think what we think of ourselves is the most important thing, and that's what we need to protect. How do we build that faith in self or love of self? It is by taking on things which are difficult. We should do hard things. And 10, pay it forward. Intentionally bring yourself to community to help others. I think we always need to be putting ourselves out in the community, and we need community as well. Thank you for listening, and please share and review this podcast if you enjoy it. Remember, if you need help climbing that mountain, or for that matter, figuring out which mountain you even want to climb, reach out to me. I promise you a transformational breakthrough conversation which can lead to your best version of yourself for 2023 and beyond. Till next time, stay well, my friend, and stay safe.